Hey there. Are you ready to unlock a world of brand new, scary stories tonight? Make sure to subscribe and smash that like button so you never miss a spine-tingling moment. Now, get comfy, turn off the lights, and now, let's begin. This is an event that happened very recently, and it will probably be the single most terrifying experience in my entire life. I just graduated college in the Midwest and received an offer from a major bank in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thus, the most logical next step for me was to search for housing options in the Charlotte area. Just a couple days after graduation, my father and I flew to Charlotte, and we stayed in a hotel that was both near the airport and downtown Charlotte. It was an area that was in the midst of being gentrified, mixing homeless crackheads and young professionals all in one place. There were run-down stores and old ranch houses, but there was also newly built townhouses and a beautiful shopping center close by. While there were times that I felt unsafe in the area, it didn't seem like anything serious would happen other than the random harassment from the homeless that roamed the streets. The hotel was really nice, which was surprising for a building that had been there before the gentrification began. Breakfast was provided, the rooms were very clean, and the lobby had multiple places to relax or do work. While the hallways of the hotel definitely looked like they were from the back rooms, I felt safe within the confines of the building. At least I thought so. My father had to cut our 4-day trip to Charlotte short since a family emergency occurred. He allowed me to stay in the city for one more day while he took the next flight out to make it back home as soon as possible. I was completely fine with that. And for the last day, I explored the city and searched for more housing options alone. When I got back to the hotel that night, I took some time to relax, watching TV, YouTube videos, and listening to music. By 12 a.m., I was pretty exhausted, and I turned off the lights and closed the blinds, flopping down in bed with both my AirPods in. I spent the next couple minutes listening to music as I drifted to sleep. I woke up at around 3 a.m. to knocking on my door. I could only hear it because the music in my AirPods had stopped as my playlist had reached its end. I wasn't sure what was happening or what I was hearing for a couple minutes, as I was still in a stupor after waking up. I took out my AirPods, trying to make out the noise that was coming from the door. Knock, 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 knock. I thought it was room service or hotel management, probably just checking up on me since my father, who booked the room, was gone. No, it couldn't have been. Who in their right mind would check up on someone in the middle of the night? Knock, 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 knock. Maybe it was someone who was locked out of their own room and thought my room was their own. But that seemed impossible as well. There was only 3 floors in this hotel. Bang, 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 bang. The person was now slamming their fist against the door now. I was scared now, and I could only hope that the person would get tired and move on after a couple more minutes. The knocking continued with occasional banging against the door and finagling of the door handle. I was terrified now, not just because of the persistence of the person trying to get into my room, but also because I heard absolutely nothing else from the door. There was no breathing despite the heavy slamming of the door, nor was there any word spoken. If it was room service, they would have announced it so. If it was someone who mistook my room for theirs, I was expecting some sort of dialogue like, "Mom, Dad? Brother? Sister? Honey? But I heard absolutely nothing but the incessant knocking and banging of my hotel room door. Bang, 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 bang. Knock, 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 knock. For nearly an hour, the person wouldn't stop. Now, I wasn't even sure it was a real person. Any human would have moved on by now. Any human would have spoken some words by now. Any human would have taken a breath by now. I didn't want to make my way towards the door to check on who the person was, since there was a slit under the door that could have allowed someone from one side of the door to notice that there was someone on the other side. Instead, I hid behind the bed, hoping to God that this thing wouldn't get into my room and that someone would stop it. Bang, 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 bang. Knock, 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 knock. By 4 a.m., I had reached my limit. I just wanted to go to bed. I just wanted to feel safe again. There seemed to be no end of the knocking or slamming or finagling. The person on the other side never paused, and I never had a feeling of respite where I thought they would leave or take a couple minutes to rest. I wanted it to end, and I thought calling the police would do that. However, I still didn't want to reveal the fact that I was in the room, so I texted 911 that there was someone trying to get into my room. It was almost 8 p.m., and I was sitting alone at the bus station. The bench was cold, and the air was quiet, except for the wind. My phone battery had died, and the streetlights were buzzing softly. I kept looking down the road, hoping the bus would come soon. This part of town got really empty and quiet after dark. I pulled my coat tighter around me to keep warm. I tried to stay calm and told myself everything was okay, but something about the silence made me nervous. Then, I saw someone coming from far away, just outside the light. She was walking slowly, almost like she was floating. Even from far away, I could see her face. It was smiling, but it wasn't a normal smile. It looked strange and creepy. Her eyes were wide, and she didn't blink. I looked around, but there was no one else nearby. All I could hear were her footsteps coming closer and closer. I grabbed my bag and hoped the bus would come soon. She kept walking toward me with that weird smile on her face. She was wearing old plain clothes that looked out of place. I thought about getting up and walking away, but I felt frozen. She didn't look angry, but the smile made me feel scared. She stopped just a few feet in front of me. I could smell something strange on her, like old metal. She didn't say anything. She just stared at me. I looked into her eyes, and it felt like falling into a hole. I looked away, trying not to panic, but I could still feel her stare. She didn't move or speak, just stood there smiling. I don't know how much time passed, but it felt like forever. I thought about calling someone, but my phone was still dead. I looked back at her, and she tilted her head to one side. That smile somehow got even bigger. It looked wrong. It was the way she tilted her head that scared me most. I whispered, "Do you need something?" But she said nothing. Just then, I saw the bus headlights coming toward us. I felt a huge wave of relief and jumped up quickly. I almost tripped as I rushed to get on the bus. The driver opened the door, and I got on without looking back. I didn't want to see her anymore. I just wanted to leave. But as the bus started moving, I looked out the window. She was still standing there, not moving at all. Her head tilted again, and she kept smiling at me. I kept staring at her through the foggy bus window. She didn't chase the bus or wave goodbye. She just stood there, still smiling, like she was waiting. It looked like she was staring straight into my soul. I thought she might be saying something, but no sound came. No one else on the bus seemed to notice or care. I didn't know how to explain what just happened, but I felt like she had taken something from me. Even the next day, I couldn't stop thinking about her. I changed my route to avoid that bus stop. But at one transfer station, I saw something across the street. A woman standing under a flickering streetlight. She looked just like the woman from before. Far away, but I could see the same creepy smile. She didn't move or wave, just stared. And that same cold feeling came back again. I tried to tell myself it was just someone else. Maybe I was just tired or imagining things. But deep down, I knew it was her again. She wasn't just watching. She was waiting. It felt like she had picked me for something. I started to notice strange things around me. Shadows looked darker. Reflections seemed off. And I didn't feel safe anymore. I never wait alone now. I always take crowded buses. But even in crowds, I sometimes see her face. In windows and mirrors. Even just in my mind. She doesn't speak. She never has. She only watches, always with a creepy smile. And every time she seems a little closer, like she's slowly closing in, and I don't know what she wants. Now I dream about her too. In my dreams, she walks up and stands right by me. She doesn't hurt me. She doesn't touch me. She just stands there staring, smiling. I can't move or scream in the dream. Her face is the last thing I see before I wake up. I wake up sweating, heart racing, still scared. I don't think the dreams are just dreams. I don't know who she is or why she's after me. But I feel like I'm being followed, even in the day. She's never far now. I see her more often. She's always quiet, always smiling. Sometimes I wonder if she's real at all. But the fear I feel is too strong to be fake. And I know she's coming closer, night by night. One day soon, I think she'll finally reach me. And when she does, I don't think I'll be able to leave. There won't be a bus to save me this time. There won't be people around or a driver to notice. It'll just be me and her, face to face. I try not to think about what happens then. But deep down, I know the smile won't go away. Not when she gets what she came for. And maybe I'll start smiling too. It was 5 a.m. when I stepped out for my early morning coffee break after finishing my overnight shift. The sky was just beginning to glow, pale pink and gold behind the distant trees. Birdsong filled the air, robins, sparrows, finches, each note sharp and clear in the cool dawn. I held my steaming cup tight, watching the steam drift upward before the cold air claimed it. This little hill behind the staff lot was my sanctuary. I could see the horizon stretch for miles. Every breath felt fresh, like I was filling my lungs with new energy after a long night. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the silence settle around me, broken only by wings. No sounds of traffic, no indoor lights, just me, the birds, and the waking sky. Even though I'd only slept a few hours, this spot always made me feel awake inside. I took another slow sip, ready for 5 minutes of peace before heading back. As I walked up the last slope, something caught my eye nearly 50 meters away. In the dim half-light stood a lone figure, a man in a gray hoodie with the hood pulled up. At first, I thought he was another early worker, waiting for the lot gates to open. But he didn't move. He just stood there, shoulders still, watching me as I climbed. My heart gave a little jolt. I felt the familiar warning tingle at the back of my neck. The birds fell silent. The air seemed heavier, and even my breath felt loud in my ears. I studied his posture, tall, sturdy, hands hidden in pockets, face half in shadow. I hesitated, wondering if he'd even noticed me yet, or if he was planning something. The moment stretched. I weighed, turning back against walking toward the unknown. Morning felt suddenly unsafe, as if the sunrise had triggered something darker. When our eyes finally met, my blood ran cold. His gaze was steady, unblinking, like he'd been waiting for me all night. The birds resumed their song, but it sounded distant, unreal, as if underwater. Time slowed. I heard the gravel under my boots, the faint hum of a street lamp. I raised my free hand, palm open, as if that might stop him or warn him off. He took one step forward, and everything snapped into motion. He broke into a sprint, gray hood a blur against the glowing sky. I screamed, a high, raw sound I didn't know I could make so loud. My heart pounded like a drum, urging my legs to run faster than ever. I bolted down the hill, nearly slipping on loose dirt and rocks. Adrenaline surged through me, erasing every ache from lack of sleep. Behind me, I heard gravel crunching as he closed the gap in 2 strides. My scream echoed oddly, swallowed by the empty lot around us. I didn't look back, I couldn't, just ran toward the ER doors ahead. Every step felt both desperate and determined, like life itself hung on it. I prayed the doors would open in time, that help would be waiting inside. I reached the bottom, but my foot caught on a root and I tumbled forward. Pain shot through my left wrist as I braced my fall, then twisted my ankle. Stinging tears blurred my vision, but I forced myself up one more time. Groaning, I hobbled the last few yards toward the glass doors. They swung open before I could reach for the handle. Someone had seen me. Inside, the linoleum floor felt impossibly smooth, a sudden safety net. I collapsed against it, gasping, my coffee still warm in my hand. Behind me, I heard him slow, then stop, just at the threshold. Through the door's glass panel, I watched him pause in the lot. He looked around, as if searching for me, then turned and walked away. No chase, no shout. Just a slow disappearance into the rows of cars. I sank to the floor as staff rushed over, blankets and questions. Somehow, in those first seconds of safety, I finally let go and sobbed. Officers arrived soon after, scanning the lot with flashlights and radios. I told them what I could: hoodie, height, the quiet before the run. They promised to patrol the area more and look for his face on cameras. They wrapped my wrist and bandaged my ankle tight. I was told to rest and avoid putting weight on it for a week. Inside, I felt drained, but grateful to be alive and unharmed. Fear lingered, but relief had edged it back enough to breathe. Now I take my breaks in busy, well-lit areas only. My phone stays in my hand, keyed to call for help at once. I text a friend every time I leave work. No silent departures. I still miss that quiet hill, but safety must come first. I flinch at sudden noises and check reflections in every window. The sunrise no longer feels welcoming without a crowd around me. Trusting my gut saved me. Now I listen to it without question. I share this so others know how fast a peaceful morning can turn. I'll return to work tomorrow, coffee in hand, but I'll look twice. Danger can hide in dawn's light, but so can resilience. I survived that chase, and I carry its lesson with me. Every sunrise is both threat and promise. I choose to stay aware. This story is real. I was about 9 years old when it happened. To this day, I still don't know if it was a glitch, a time slip, or something else. But whatever it was, It stayed with me and my family ever since. I've gone over the details again and again, and nothing adds up. Every person who was with me remembers it the same exact way. It was a normal day, nothing strange or unusual leading up to it. But something happened that afternoon that none of us could explain. And no matter how much time passes, it still gives me chills. It started like any other summer day. My cousin and I, both around the same age, were playing outside. My older sister, who was around 17, decided to take us on a quick trip. She was driving, and another one of our older cousins came with us. My sister often took me along for errands or visits to the mall. We didn't plan anything out. We just tagged along without thinking. I remember feeling happy, relaxed, not a worry in the world. Just another afternoon in the late 90s, before smartphones and GPS. We were driving down the freeway when we spotted something fun. Off to the side was a full carnival, Ferris wheel, rides, games. One ride stood out clearly, the Zipper, with its spinning metal cages. We could see lights, bright colors, even hear distant music and shouting. My cousin and I immediately started begging to go. The smell of elephant ears and corn dogs drifted through the car windows. My sister smiled but said no, she had to return a shirt first. She promised we could stop by the carnival afterward. She took the same exit as usual, one we knew well. It curved off the freeway, leading to a familiar main road. I clearly remember the carnival being off to the left side. But my sister turned right toward the mall, just like she planned. She said she knew exactly where to park to avoid traffic. We laughed and agreed to be quick so we could return to the fun. Even walking into the mall, I could still faintly smell the carnival food. Everything felt completely normal. Nothing strange at all. We were inside for maybe 30 minutes, no more. My sister returned her shirt, and our cousin checked out a shoe sale. We didn't buy anything else, didn't waste time or wander. On the way back to the car, my cousin and I were so excited. We couldn't wait to ride the Ferris wheel or try the games. But something was off. I noticed the carnival smell was gone. I didn't mention it, thinking maybe I was just too excited to notice. We got into the Jeep and headed back toward the exit. But when we turned onto the same road, there was nothing. The entire carnival had vanished. Completely. No rides, no flashing lights, no music, no crowds, no traffic cones, no fences, no signs of teardown or trucks. It was just an empty road with trees and grass on either side. Not even a scrap of trash or leftover wire. We all sat in silence, staring out the windows, confused. The road was clear in both directions. No hint of what we saw earlier. I remember my older cousin breaking the silence. Did they press a button and hide the whole carnival underground? Nobody laughed. It wasn't funny. It felt eerie. We all knew what we had seen. We knew it had been real. My sister, quietly, turned on her signal and headed home. We didn't talk much the rest of the ride. I kept glancing out the window, hoping to see something, anything. But there was only road, sky, and the hum of the engine. Even now, thinking back, it makes no sense. And there's no way a carnival could disappear in just 30 minutes. Those rides are massive, especially the Ferris wheel and the Zipper. Taking them down would take hours, not minutes. There was no cleanup crew, no equipment, no trucks or trailers, no smell of food, no crowds, no sounds. Just silence and a road that didn't match what we remembered. It felt like something had reset, like the carnival had never been there. We've all talked about it many times over the years. No one remembers it differently. Every detail still matches. We saw the same rides, heard the same sounds, smelled the same food, and we all saw the exact same emptiness on the way back. No one's tried to explain it with logic anymore. We just accept that it was weird and that it really happened. It's the one story that always makes people stop and think. Because it wasn't a dream, it was real, and we all remember it. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if we had gone left. What would we have found if we actually reached the carnival? Would it still have been there? Or would it have disappeared anyway? Was it real at all? Or did we see something we weren't meant to? Did we glimpse something from another time or version of reality? These thoughts always bring more questions than answers. But they also remind me how strange the world can be, and how quickly something real can just vanish into nothing. This story takes place back in 2001, during my college years. I went to school in a big city, and I had a close group of 9 friends. We were inseparable, studying, riding motorcycles, hanging out daily. Those were some of the best years of my life. We laughed a lot, pulled all-nighters, and lived in the moment. Among us was my first love, so everything felt even more memorable. One weekend in our junior year, we planned a guys-only retreat. It was supposed to be a relaxing breakout in the countryside. One of our buddies had a family farm about 2 hours away. His dad owned over 200 acres of land, fields, woods, and chicken coops. There was a large farmhouse with a pool, and we were all excited. We packed our backpacks, loaded up on snacks, and rode out together. All 9 of us were on motorcycles, cruising into open country roads. That first night, we lit a campfire, grilled food, told stories, and relaxed. The second day was more of the same: music, laughter, and good food. It felt like the perfect weekend until everything changed. Around 11 p.m. on Saturday, my friend's dad called the farmhouse. He'd just received word that a relative had passed away in a nearby town. It was another 2 hours deeper into the countryside, more rural than the farm. His dad asked if we could ride there to check on the widow. She was alone. Without hesitation, we agreed. It felt like the right thing to do. We suited up, got back on our bikes, and hit the road around 11:30 p.m. The roads were quiet, barely any lights, just the sound of our engines. A few stretches were paved, but most were winding dirt roads. We'd been riding for almost 2 hours with no one in sight. No signs, no buildings, just trees and dark sky above us. Without smartphones or GPS, we were using a printed map. We pulled over, trying to figure out the directions. It was now close to 2 a.m., and the air felt still, almost too still. Finally, in the distance, we saw a pair of headlights approaching. We flagged the car down and explained we were lost. The driver said he was from the same town and offered to guide us. As we prepared to follow him, he gave us an odd warning. "If any of you smoke, light a cigarette when we hit the dirt road," he said. I asked him why. His answer chilled me. "So the witches don't snatch you." We all kind of laughed it off, assuming he was joking. But something about the way he said it didn't sit right. We shrugged it off and followed him into the forested path. The road narrowed, with the woods on both sides dark and bare. Strangely, even in summer, the trees had no leaves, just dry branches. As soon as we entered the woods, the man rolled down his window. He lit a cigarette and drove on in silence. The rest of us followed. The deeper we went, the heavier the atmosphere felt. It wasn't just dark, it was quiet in a way that felt unnatural. No insects, no night animals, just the rumble of our bikes. That's when I started feeling a strange tension in my chest. I rode up beside a friend who smoked and asked him to light one. He laughed, but didn't, so I stopped, lit one myself, and kept going. My helmet was off, smoke curling from the cigarette in my hand. Then it happened. A laugh. Not a normal laugh. Something chilling. It echoed through the woods, high-pitched and drawn out. I looked at the friends riding closest to me and asked if they heard it too. They nodded, faces pale, no words spoken. That laugh didn't come just once. We heard it again and again. It sounded like it came from high above us in the trees, 5 times. That same eerie cackle. We didn't know what to think. Eventually, after what felt like forever, but was only 15 minutes, we saw the faint outline of a small house up ahead. We parked quietly, still shaken, and thanked the man in the car. He gave us a nod and drove off into the night, no questions asked. The house was dimly lit, but the widow answered the door right away. She was clearly grieving and overwhelmed, and we stayed to help. We didn't speak about what happened in the woods, not yet. We stayed through the next day, cleaning, fixing things, and supporting her. By late afternoon, we said our goodbyes and rode back to the farm. This time, we took a different route. No one wanted to go through the woods. There was an unspoken agreement among us not to bring it up. But once we got back to the city, that silence broke. Each of us remembered the laugh exactly the same way. 9 people, 9 separate bikes, 1 shared experience. Whatever that was, it wasn't a trick of the mind. We all heard it, and we all remember it. A few days later, I asked my friend's dad about the woods. He paused and then told me an old story from local folklore. They say a witch haunts those woods, drawn to lone travelers at night. She doesn't like fire, which is why locals smoke when passing through. He admitted he always thought it was just a rural myth. We never told him what we'd heard. It didn't feel necessary. But deep down, we knew the truth. That the man in the car was right. And that some stories exist for a reason.